Alrighty, Bowhunters, welcome back to another episode. Sitting here online with Mr. Kristian Gerathy. Christian, I actually did not know your name till we talked on the phone the other day. You were just always the guy behind following a broken compass, and we just talked online all the time, which I thought was hilarious. So, anyway, welcome, mate.
Yeah, cheers. It is funny that, eh? Just I was thinking the same. I was like, I've got a few combos with a few different people, and I'm like, by the way, my name's Christian.
Dude, it was funny.
I'm not actually.
I went out to the Venture night the other night that they put on for Twin Elements, and there was like the screening of the new Twin Elements film that they've done, which they're releasing in the wild, just in like snippets. I think it's like five parts maybe, but they put it all together as one whole movie for that night, which was cool. But I just met a heap of people that have like listened to the podcast, watched along my journey, and talked to me throughout my social media. And they'd come up and they're like, "Hey man," I'm like, "Hey bro, what's your name?" And then they'd say it. I'm like, "Yeah, but what's your Instagram handle?" Like, that's how I know you. That's where I talk to you. So yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, it's nearly a strange world. I've kind of always, I don't know, yeah, I've surfed and stuff, so I've never really delved into DMs. But with bow hunting, I was like, I'm gonna take this a fresh start, and like, if people reach out or talk, I'm just gonna go with it. And it is quite cool. But yeah, it is so funny. Like, I'd talk to people, go, so and so dot, and you put the dot in their name and you're talking about them and whatnot. So yeah, I definitely do the same thing.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a very cool world. It's also very inviting. I think there's people are very hungry for information. They're very interested to share their experiences to see if you have something similar. Within saying that, it's like a learning process in the conversation. It's not like a take or a give. It's like a two-way street, which I think is really cool about bow hunting.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, and that's like, yeah, I've started. It's weird. I've gone full circle and like little conversations to now. I've even had a few people like going, "Hey man, I've got this property. Come down this rut," and I'm like, "Whoa, I never expected this would get to this point." And then like I look on their Instagram, like, "Whoa, man, I wouldn't be inviting anyone around." But like, yeah, it's cool that yeah, you just forget that there are people out there who want to hang out and want, obviously it's a you forget how niche of a market it is and how small it is and how segregated some people must be. Like they hunt their own block or whatever, but they're just so keen to share that.
Yeah,
It's
I think
just
it's also like you get to a stage in hunting where you've hunted so much and you've done the best that you can do on your block, but it's something that's brand new and exciting for someone else. So to be able to share that opportunity with them is so good. The hard thing online sometimes is being able to really see what someone's real character is like, right? You can't necessarily get that from a few messages or something like that. But I don't know, like people have spent literally 300 hours with me on my podcast, which is fucking insane to me. I'm sure probably insane to them people as well. But then same thing for you, right? Like people will spend hours watching your videos online, and then they start to get an understanding of who you are, what you stand for, and they're that for
yeah.
it. That therefore it makes it easier to maybe make that invite. I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose they can see. Yeah, I always forget that I kind of make videos and don't even think about it. And then, yeah, when someone reaches out, or like I just went to my nephew's 21st, and a few people are like, "Oh, we watch your videos," and I was like, "Oh, this is a bit cringy." Like, like I forget that whole side of it. Like, I love making it. I always love making videos, but to think that when people are actually watching, but like you said, they do get kind of used to who you are because you show your real self because you're just talking to a camera and you got all your little mannerisms and where you stand on certain things. So they either like get along with you or whatever and they reach out. Like I just had one right then before I started here. It's like, "Hey man, saw the new video. It's super sick. I hadn't hunted for ages. Popped up on my feed on YouTube and yeah, I'm heading out this weekend. Got me off the couch." I was like, "Dude, that's exactly kind of what I want out of it." Like there's an
Hmm.
aspect I'm doing it because I love filming, but there's also this thing where I've like, I've been stuck in that spot where you sit on the couch, you don't do anything, you go back to Monday to Friday, and you're like, oh, and now this pushes me to do it, and I see other people do it. I'm like, that's sick that it's making other people, go out and have a crack.
Definitely, man. Yeah, I was talking to my mate Benny Fenson this morning about this because I really didn't have anything booked in for the rut at all. At least I had one trip potentially planned in, like penciled in, but nothing was like set in stone. And I went to this night at Bench the other night, and I've done no hunting since November. Which might not sound like much to some people, but when you're used to going out like every month or every other month, and at least having stuff booked in to know what you're working towards,
Yeah.
it just gives you something to drive towards. And I've had all this business stuff going on, and I've had a lot of trips around. but nothing to do with hunting. And like on Sunday, I'm going to Japan for another business event. And I'm like, I'm so pumped for it. But at the same time, it's funny how much bow hunting just gives you like a mental break. It just gives you something to look forward to. It gives you, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
just something that gives you so much back. And so for me, I just like after I went to the venture night, it was that motivation that I need to say, okay, this is where I'm going. This is how I'm going to sit down and do these trips, and just planning it out a little bit more and actually putting some stuff in set in stone. I think I don't know, being that I've been busy traveling at the moment and that I've got a wife and kids, there's that whole aspect of bringing them into it as well. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this, but then we have to do this as well as a concept.
Yeah.
Like the leverage piece, you got to pull on a little bit.
Yeah, and it must be like when you're doing big hours, like even talking to you about today, like you just done so much and you try and run a bit of social media, you try and do this, then you book in this late at night. Like it's a big chunk to then go, hey babe, I'm heading out for a run.
Yeah,
You
I'm
hang
like,
out with the groms and
yeah,
I'll be back. And then, and as much as it is hunting sometimes, and I find this lately, I've gone out a few times and like love the new owner to death where I've been given access and it's sick. But then, sometimes he'll tag along, like he's just frothing to come out.
yeah,
And then on the second day, sometimes I'm just like sick. Like that was also like I love going out there to tap out. Like I do have my camera, and that's another aspect. And I've got kind of hooked to filming lizards and deer and stuff. But yeah, just like heading out and getting away by yourself. There's also that aspect. So I like as long as they understand that. And my chick's pretty good. Like she was just asking me, she's like, "What are you doing when you got home? Like you said, you're going to go back out." I'm like, "I've got this tonight, and then I'll figure out the rest of my break because I'm lucky I do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off." And then yeah, so I've got a little access to a red property that I fluked through looking for gold. So the
yep.
owners said I can come down there, and I like it's kind of weird. I actually hit him up and asked, I was like, "Is like, can I take a stag?" Because I've never hunted for trophies or stag or hard animal or whatever.
Hmm.
But the first place I hunted, I could never shoot one. That he was just like, "There's a big rooster stag. You can hunt here, but you can shoot." It's kind of like that block you talk about, where there's the different rules and whatnot. He let me on. He's just like, "But that's it. Just don't shoot that stag."
Yeah.
And the whole 5 years till like 4 years till I shot a deer was like me being 10 meters from this massive stag and just encounter after encounter. But now I like ask people, and he was like, "Yeah, you can go for it." I'm like, whoa. And yeah, I fluked it last time I went there looking for gold through his brother. Actually, it was their dad's property, and their father since passed away, and the other sons inherited it, and he had a little shack there. And he was chatting to me a bit because I made a clip of their place. He's like, "Man, I love watching that video because I see all the hills. I see like there's aspects that you caught my place in that I just never seen, like so early in the morning and
Mm.
the birds." And he goes like, "It's so special to me. I've watched that in a full different way." So it's pretty
Yeah, that's
cool. And then yeah,
awesome. I think
he's
there's a
like,
few
"Come
things to
down."
unpack there as well. It's like, I mean, going back to the partner side of things, you just like the way that I always position it, and that she knows it is like when I go away, I definitely come back a better man. But at the same time, I put in so much fucking time and effort before I go away. When I get back, I really like hustle to pull my weight to make sure there's not such a big issue that I'm going away regularly. And then on top of that, like I also encourage her to go away a lot. Like, hey, go and have your time. Like, go and do this, go and do that. And I think that is also so valuable in regards to the gold digging. I mean, that was definitely where I wanted to dive into some stuff because did that come first? Were you, like, how long have you been digging for gold versus, or yeah, swimming for
Yeah.
gold, I should say, versus how long have you been bow hunting for?
Well, bow hunting is it kind of come from hunting rabbits as a kid. We had just like not all the time. It was like a coastal kid went to an uncle's property, would shoot rabbits with a 22 under light, and then I used to just hold the lie as a kid. My dad would explain it to me, and then he's like, "One night, he's like, do you want to go?" He's like, "But if you do it, we're gonna open that animal up, and we're gonna take it home, and we're gonna eat it, and you're gonna cut its tail off, and we're gonna keep the tail as a memory. Like I've got mine from my granddad's." And I was like,
Oh,
"All
good.
right." So I did it, and then it's rattling, like it's rattling as an adult because of that warm and whatnot. But yeah, from there on, I kind of that was my little taste, and then I don't know, about 12, he came home with a bow as a concreter, and someone had traded him or said they'll throw it out. And I just had this old, I swear, I was trying to think of it today. It was like had wheels, but it had like wooden limbs. I don't know if it's a
Mm.
real old bear. And my brother used to shoot it. And then once I got old enough, I could do it. We just had hail bales in the backyard and did that. And then it was only when I was like 20, I picked it back up because we were traveling Australia. Me and my mate went to Cape York. And no, this is me, like no idea about bow hunting. I'm just like, yeah, I'll chuck that in because
Because I'm going out
I'm in.
bush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only time I got it out was I like walked around with a bit. I had no idea what I was doing. And if I saw pigs cross the road, because there's so much pigs up there, I'd just like run after them. But like it was just stupid, like a few haymaker shots, which is all silly now. You look back at it. It was only then later on, oh yeah, I saw you could buy bows online, and bought one, and then went to New Zealand, got into it a bit more, and then got back here, and really was like set a target of I'm gonna get a deer, and it was kind of at that exact time. So that was about 5 years ago.
Hmm.
Oh no, that about 5 years ago was when I was like, I'm gonna start getting deer, and I mucked around with crappy equipment. I had like a bear game over from that I'd bought before going to New Zealand, and it just I shot goats and stuff with it, but it's just I just didn't have the right broadheads. I didn't have the right arrows. I didn't have an idea, and then it started unpacking. Bought a Hoyt RX-7 and was like, whoa, like this thing shoots flat and straight, like I'm on. And then got proper broadheads. I was like, just bought Kogas and was like, okay, because I had one bad experience first up too of just shooting something and it just didn't penetrate. And then I just had no idea. I mean, I've done it all off my own back. I've hunted with a mate that's got less experience than me. And then this new owner, he's a pretty good bow hunter. But, I've followed him once, but the whole rest of the time was just me out there going, cool, I'm going to drive to this guy's house door knock. Cool, got access, figure it out. Like, I had nothing. That's why I think when I first reached out to you, I was just laughing because I'm like, man, I've had the exact same thing to the point where my mates are like, dude, let it go. You're never going to get one. Like, why are you so... Did you even see one? I'm like, I saw one on day 3, and they're like, what did you do for us? And I was like, just crawled through the bush. Like, I was just
I
like,
walked for days on end just to make it happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so good. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It
so
is.
I don't know.
I mean, back to your factor before of what you said around like you saw this stag that you weren't allowed to shoot, yet he was there every day. Like it's the old law. I don't know which law it is, but it's like, yeah, if you can't have it, like you'll just be better off around it, right? Like, I went hunting once at that block that you were talking about where it had all the rules in places through the ridge group stuff, and I stalked on so many deer this one day because I couldn't hunt them, and so I was like, I think I had like 4 or 5 opportunities, and I was within 10, 15 meters of these red deer hinds, and I couldn't shoot any of them because they're all dropping their fawns. And that was
Had
just
you
the rule.
taken one at that point?
Oh yeah,
You
yeah. I'd
had.
taken deer
Oh, right.
previously. But
Well,
so
that would
that
have
was
hurt
just like,
more.
yeah, it was just like, okay, hang out with these deer and get up nice and close and hopefully a boy comes around or something like that. Yeah, it was just interesting to see how it happens. But I mean, back to the gold stuff. So how did that come about then?
Oh, I'm pretty good at finding weird hobbies, and I don't know, get like fixated on something, but I don't even know. I think I saw. Oh, actually, there's a guy I know from bodyboarding from another town. He was kind of posting a bit of stuff every now and then. I
Hmm.
kind of like looked at it and I was like, I've always had this infatuation of like crystals and gold. And we lived on like I grew up in Bateman's Bay, and we kind of backed onto all this bush. And we used to go down there looking for rocks and just collect quartz rocks. And the neighbor had found this quartz crystal, like just little points, but like
Mm.
just on a normal quartz rock. So I was like kind of fixated then. And then I heard about gold, and I just was like, all right. So he was doing it. I did a bit of research. Same thing. I just was like, I'm just going to go have a crack. I kind of know what he was doing. He was just wearing snorkeling goggles, going in rivers. I just looked online where I could go, and I drove in there and didn't tell any of my mates at first because it's pretty random. Walking around the bush in a wetsuit and snorkeling goggles. And the first river I tried, I found like I think I found 0.3 of a gram. But when you think about gold, it's people have been searching for it for hundreds of years, right?
Hmm.
That river has turned over tons of gold, which is an insane amount.
Yeah.
And then here's little Ginger out there plodding along, pulled my car up, jumped in, scrapped a few rocks out of the crack, and there's gold. So it kind of works like you're looking for a river that's that has gold. So you can get all this information about mines and stuff. All right, I'm not going to tell you where to go, but you can see all data ever drilled by mining companies and whatnot's there, or old existing mines. So I just look for rivers near old mines.
Mm.
And then if you find hard bedrock, you kind of look for cracks in the river or in the rock, sorry, that the rocks are stuck in there. So if you chip all those rocks out and then you
It's like
slowly,
thin line cracked essentially.
yeah, or like even like this,
Yeah,
or
okay.
Or like some I go for littler ones sometimes because I think everyone looks for that big crack that runs across
Mm,
the river, which they still accumulate gold. Like mostly people have had a crack, but you might get lucky. But yeah, once you get the rocks out of the way, there's the sediment kind of sits underneath and the gold slides, and because it's so soft, it bends in and gets in underneath.
yeah, wow.
And then you just sit there and yeah, once you get down to the bottom clay, you just see it sitting there and like kind of the sand moves with your hand washing it away, but the gold sits still. And then you just get, I've got a little tomato sauce bottle with
I've seen that.
a
Yeah.
sucker on it and you suck it up. And then it was just like this new hobby. And I was so over surfing and idiots in the surf. And it's just the worst sport surfing. And I could just go in there
Locals
and do
only.
this.
Yeah.
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 And then yeah, I brought some mates along. They just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And that's where I kind of jumped back into YouTube because I was like, hey, this is cool. Like I really kind of want to show my friends and family because so many were like, where are you finding this guy? I was like, I'll make a clip and just put it up. And then kind of got me motivated to make vids again. And I was like, hey, bow hunting is pretty sick like that too. Like my group of friends don't really understand it. And same thing, they're asking me so much. I was like, I'll just make a vid. And I used to always hold these videos on my hard drive of all my trips and random hobbies. And I wish I put them up earlier. And so, like, yeah, I just was like, stuff it. I'll put them up there as a good memory for me because I found Instagrams like that. If so, people hate on Instagram. I was like, yeah, but scroll back 10 years or 5 years and you see all this stuff that I don't remember doing, man. But I've got these little clips of spearfishing in Arche and like northern tip of Sumatra, and we're out in these little boats and like shooting wahoo and that. And I'm like, you just forget you did it, and it's such a
Definitely.
sick memory. So I thought YouTube's like a little calendar for myself, but I also did have that aim of like, maybe if I put all this effort in, something might come of it. I don't know. I
Mm.
don't. It's just fun, really.
Definitely. When it comes to the gold, though, like you said, you had found what 0.3 of a gram that very first day.
Yeah.
How, like, what does that equate to monetarily wise? Like, what's it all? How's it all work out?
So a gram of gold right now is like, I think it's $140.
Yeah, fuck.
So yeah, so the first time I found point 0.3, then I found point 0.7, and I talked to my mate who does it, and he's like, "Oh, you're doing pretty good, like this by yourself."
Mm.
And then I'm like, "What's good? Like, tell me what good." And he's like, "Anything over a gram," and I was like, "Get this ADHD to work," and just moved, moved half the river, and I was like, "I'm gonna see how much I can get," and I found like, I think I found 6 grams or something that trip, like
Fucking hell.
3.5 grams a day. And
Yeah.
then I was like, far out. And at that point, I was helping a mate doing electrical work, like he does high voltage stuff. And I was kind of counting out the hours. Like, if I went out there and just parked up, and I got that little prospector itch. And I was like, oh, I could do this, hey. And now, but that was back then. The gold price was heaps cheaper. Like it's just gone through the roof. It's like all-time highs.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and it's kind of bow hunting's taken over, and I still get this itch. I think about it and go, oh, I've got to go back there or whatever. Because
Just
yeah, I did
another
that.
form of hunting, right? It's just different.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. And something I love stuff like I think that's why I like bow hunting. It's like it's something that not everyone sees, and then the places I would never walk up a hill or like I struggle. I'm trying to get fit right now because of the rut, same as you probably. Do you do it? No, I'll put like my boots on,
I'm
walk
fit year
yesterday.
round, baby.
Oh man. Oh yeah, you're yeah. Actually, yeah, I'm not. I'm hopeless. But if you give me a bow, doesn't matter how unfit I am. Same in like I've done it in New Zealand. I just go. I just keep walking
Yeah,
until
the
I can't
motivation's
walk.
there. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, the other thing is it's kind of like it's something that you can do without getting a reward to, and it makes it you so much more hungry for it. Like you could probably go out and spend a whole day looking for gold and not find it. I'm sure you spent many days like that. And it's the same for
Yes.
bow hunting, right? You go out and maybe see an animal and you're like, fuck, that was a great day.
And it's that itch you want to scratch. Like I've got it at the moment, and I'm at the point with gold. I'm happy to take a few people, but they're like, "Can you take me?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't have a spot, man. Like I wish I could take you to a spot, but if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it, making
Mm,
money. Like
yeah.
you've got to find your own spot." And same thing. I get people hit my DMs all the time, like, "Hey man, where should I go?" I'm like, I tell them the same thing. It's like find some gold mines and have a crack, and let me know how you go. Like they're like my little scouts now. And I'm like, because it's like anyone when they're new, right? They maybe talk too much when they shouldn't, which is a bit naughty of me. But I'm like, oh, I got to get something back. But yeah, it's
You've
pretty good,
given all
mate.
your secrets away. They all know now.
Yeah, no,
I saw
they're
and
right.
saw your interview on the news once because you found a big old chunk. What was that? When was that? And how much was it worth?
Um, that was like 2 years ago. Pretty random story. And this is the other reason I started doing YouTube because just random stuff happens to me. It was, yeah, maybe 2 years ago. And after the big floods, I went up this little creek that doesn't obviously have water in it often. And it just looked at the enough water and hit this log and like rip this bit of. So you've got to move all the overburden, right? So if it's this deep, you're going to move all those rocks and sediments, which is a lot of work. So I
Hmm.
got there, jumped in, just went like this, and on the hard bedrock, all the work was done. There was just nuggets, and I was like, I think it was, I can't remember, 11.3 grams or something. But like I found it
Awesome.
in a tiny amount of times. And before that, I'd only found small gold, but that creek has like little nugs. So I was like legit picking it up and putting it in my hand. I was tripping out. Like I kind of knew then. It's probably like shooting your first deer. You're like, I was stoked, but I was like, this ain't ever happening again. Like I was like, I don't know. I've treated every deer I've shot like so much went into the first one, and that's like for that. I was like, man, people have looked for this for years. I knew a guy had told me some guys went up with detectors and smashed it and did really good. I saw some like nuggets like this in a spot just here, which is insane, and they'd found them. So I was like, this is once in a lifetime. And then yeah, it was really weird. I put it up on the internet, and our house had been flooded and whatnot. There'd been heaps of drama in northern New South Wales, and the local news, like, hey, can we run this? I'm like, yeah, whatever. And like, do you want to do an interview? I was like, yeah, I'll just text you, like, this is what I do. It's not blah, 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 blah. Then 2 hours later, we're trying to go to sleep. Me and my girlfriend, our phone's like, ding, ding, ding. It's like, what the hell? And then I'm like, the lady's like, hey, this was too good. I've sent to my mate the Daily Telegraph. And I don't have TV or look at newspapers. So I'm like, didn't even know that thing existed, but that's wild. And this lady's like, we're putting it on the back page. I'm like, all right. And then next minute, yeah, our phones are ringing. It was the morning show. And me and my mate were trying to see who could get 1,000 subscribers first. The guy who I'd followed with the gold thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
my channel was pretty gold based. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get crazy anxiety. I don't think I can do it. And he's like, you got to like, and I was like, oh, so I did it, and it was pretty. I was talking on live TV about gold snorkeling, which is stupid. And my phone was in my pocket, just like, and I was like, "Oh, you guys that say you don't watch TV, they're all like, what the hell are you doing on the news, Ginger? Like, what are you, you're off your head." And then I said some stupid redhead joke, like I always do. And yeah, all my mates just like, you are off your head. Like,
They
that's
like
fun.
quick cut the live stream, cut the live stream.
It's super awkward too because you can't see, right? So you can hear them. They're like, they're talking about Angelina Jolie or something. I'm like, whoa. And it kind of, I realized how serious it was. And they're like, you can hear all the music playing and they're obviously playing clips, but you don't know what's going on. There's just this guy holding a camera with a big light on your face. And then you're like, there's a delay too. So it
Mm.
was pretty awkward.
Yeah, it's always funny to watch. Like they'll say something and just sit and wait and watch. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. It's I think it's just one of those things where it shows like there's opportunities in everything, and if you just put your heart and soul into some stuff, you're gonna find something for it. If nothing else, you'll find joy in following your passions, right?
Yeah. And you just got to go have a crack. That's like, I tell everyone who asks me about that and bow hunting, I'm like, man, I drove inland for months and months with seafood, with beer, with everything. Like, just go have a crack. And while I was doing that, I'm like, how sick's this? Like, you go over these bridges, you're driving, like, one day I remember there was this big storm, like, all the, I don't even know what it was, like a yellow flower in the hills, just like, it was just all like waving through. And I'm like, watch this storm roll in, stop, cook a steak. And I was like, I'm like, my cup was full just from going looking. And
Mm.
then you meet a few random dudes, and they're all pretty like, as everyone will know, it's pretty popular. Like we pulled up at the gate where I just got access to, and yeah, he had like 8 pamphlets in a day dropped off. Like
What
it's
people
just
asking for hunting access?
yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean,
So
let's
like
let's touch on that a little bit because obviously this is something that, excuse me, a lot of people like it's the hardest thing about hunting is actually getting access. I mean, there's a lot of hard things that happen with hunting, and that just happens to be one of the things. It's like the thing that everyone needs to go hunting is access, but the thing that a lot of people don't have is access. So, what did you do that helped you to get access, especially somewhere like that where they are getting a lot of letterbox drops and it's not favorable as such. Like, I don't know. I've definitely been at properties when they've had letterboxes, like sorry, letterbox drops, and it's not appreciated. It's actually like a no, fuck no. Like, no, you're not coming because you can't even come and talk to me. So why would I let you on? That's kind of the concept that a few farmers have had when I've been around them, which is interesting. So
yeah.
what did you find that actually worked for you?
Yeah, I was door knocking, but it's hard, right? If you're going to do it, I would not even have your bow in the car or anything.
No, don't expect to go hunting if you're rocking up
No,
on someone's property.
and
Yeah.
you just don't have camo on, don't have anything, and you just got to try and sell yourself in a way or provide a service, or like, I took seafood and whatnot. And if they said no, I'd give them it, because a lot of the guys who said no would then be kind of like, might turn into a maybe. But man, I did it for so long and I got one, and it was a kind of a miscommunication the day I did it, that he was a bit weird because I'd found his name out from someone else who had went and done electrical work there. And he was like, "How did you know my name?" Because you went to the neighbor and said, and he'd remembered it from months ago. And I was like, "Oh, geez." And I was like, "Well, actually, yeah, my mate saw a deer here. He's doing power line work." And he's like, "Cool." He's like, "All right, camp here, do this," and just gave me all these rules. And I was like, "Oh, so I'm cool." And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, I got to go back and get my stuff then." But yeah, I don't know. There's no great way. My suggestion is, don't hit up anyone who's a hunter, because I get it all the time. You would get it all the time. I have one property, and recently I got another one, and that was through a mate offering to take me. I went for the rut, didn't even offer to shoot. Like, I was like, I just want to film and get some footage. He then let me back in, and then since then I'm the only person he's ever let hunt their solo, and I've developed that relationship that way. But I reckon if you're targeting people who are non-hunters and you're at a barbecue or whatever, and you're like, "Hey," like if someone's like, "I'm from Wagga or something," I don't know. You're like, "Oh, yeah, is your dad? Do they own property? Do they have deer?" And like, that's the way. I've got some further away where I've got access in Vic and whatnot from that. Like, they're like, "Oh, my uncle has deer." Or they see my stories out trying to hunt. They're like, "Hey, my uncle has deer at his place all the time. I'll send you his thing." And that's the better angle. No hunter. Well, they might, but not many people have model areas of access. And whatever, I'm not confident enough to ask my access owner, "Hey, can I bring this guy?" Because I struggle to. I feel bad when I ring up and go, "Hey, man, would I be able to come out this weekend?" Or, and it is a very take. Like, it's like them coming. And I say this to a lot of people. It's like them coming down to the coast, going, "Hey, bro, can I put a swag right there? Get all your surfboards and go surfing."
Hmm.
Like, it'd be weird as then have a fire, drink beers, do all this. Like, that's the other thing. If I go somewhere, I'm like, I'm a bow hunter. I don't drive at night. I don't spotlight. I
Yeah.
don't drink on the property. I don't like. I've I've kind of made it like I'm there to hunt, and yeah, they all have rules and they're all quirky in their own way. You just got to get there and do it, and don't write other people off. If someone's got access to that property, I've had a slip up with a local guy here, figured out where I was and kind of ruined where I've always been, and started talking about me over nothing, man. And it's just so silly. And I hit him up like, why did my name enter your mouth with a conversation of a farmer when I've left here to get away from all local surfing bullshit, Like, so just, I don't know, there's a few things. If you're trying to get access, yeah, don't use a hunter. And if you're out there, respect it. If they've got other people, just respect that. I don't know. There's no other. I think you've touched on it so many times in your podcast, but yeah.
Yeah, I think like a general rule that's always been in my head is like don't ask to go hunting with a hunter. Show that you're willing to go hunting with a hunter in the sense of do the actions, buy the bow, put in the effort, put in the hard yards, ask the questions of like, hey man, what do you do in this situation? Like ask those simple things. That's the sort of stuff where you actually start to show initiative. Like I literally had probably 15 dudes post I posted something about taking some newbies out and all these guys like, hey, I'd love to come. Like, how do I get into it and all this stuff? I'm like, I'll share the information with you guys. But unless you show me that you're willing to go and take those steps and buy a bow and take the effort to go and start doing the things, like I'll never take you out with me. Like until you actually give me something to show like you're interested in what you're doing, sorry, what I'm doing, and that's what you're wanting to pursue as a hobby or a piece. Like
Yeah.
I've put hundreds of hours out. You guys can go and listen to everything that I've put out, and that will get you a lot closer to it. But really, if you show me that you're willing to actually put in the effort, buy the bow, do the things, that's when I'm more inclined to say, hey bro, let's go and try to do a hunt together or something like that. Like I think there's just like that buy-in. It can't just be a take. On the other side, and I mean I've done a whole podcast on this in regards to like getting access, like you said, giving without expecting is a big thing. So, like you said, taking out some seafood or taking out some beers or something like that, that is a very worthwhile thing. And obviously, that can stretch your bank balance pretty thin pretty quickly.
Yeah,
But
100%.
I've found, to be honest, I've had more offers based on my uncle or my auntie or my cousin or someone has a property because I started talking about bow hunting more in regular situations. I talk about it at the gym. I talk about it when I go to a party. I talk about it, yeah, like wherever I am. When I go to my business events, I'm like, yeah, I do bow hunting. I run this bow hunting podcast. I got all these followers that do this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, my blah, blah, blah has a block. And I'm like,
Yep.
interesting. That's a good new lead.
And that's it. And that's the other thing. They're leads, right? And I've got pins everywhere in New South Wales and Vic of like I met one lady. I was seeing some mates down at the caravan park near here actually, and this lady were talking. She's like, "Oh, where?" And after it was like 6 hours, and they were camping next door, and they were like chatting away. And I said, "Oh yeah, I love deer hunting." I hadn't got one at that point. Like just like I put so many hours in. And she's like, "We've got deer on our block." They walk in our block, and I'm like, "Whereabouts? Do you mind showing me on a map?" Because it just interests me anyway of where, like, when you start to realize how many populations of deer there are in New South Wales, it's mind-boggling and big. But like, yeah, she showed me, and it was like this sick block onto like raw like forest, like or state forest.
Hmm.
And I'm like, this is prime so anytime. So I've got a pin there, and that was 4 years ago. I haven't got to Victoria, but I've got multiple things like that. And like you said, it was just random conversation and me talking about my bow hunting journey in public, and same with you, or like, you're putting up pictures on your story of shooting a bow. Everyone loves doing it when they get a bow, they put up some, shooting a target and trying to shoot their own arrows in half instead of shooting at the four dots. It's yeah, that's people coming from those angles, and they're the ones that you got to follow up and take upon. I reckon, like take upon
Mm.
chasing up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think like there is a bad persona around hunting to some degree, but at the same time, I think bow hunting does get a little bit of a prop up in a sense. Like a property owner does understand that bow hunting is different, and if they don't yet, they probably will come across it based on other experiences from other people. I think like unfortunately, there's a lot of hunters in the world that give a bad name to hunting, and I think bow hunters are doing a good job most of the time, like majority of the people, because it's hard to go and bow hunt. Majority of the people are doing it because they've got the desire to bow hunt, not because they want to just go and kill something. And so
Yeah,
that
100%.
gives bow hunters a better name in general.
Yeah, and that's it. And you'll get places where some farmers like do this, do that, or if you see a pig, whack it, and like it's just what they want. And if their rules are like 400 meters, I don't want to see you near the house. If there's a stag there or a buck there or a pig there, you just don't do it. Like
Mhm.
they're their rules, and they're so fed up with everyone breaking them. Like it's just it's a delicate situation. Like I don't
It
know, you
is, and
just
I think that's just like, hey, maybe sometimes it's a test. You know, there's like when I used to play in bands, like there was bands that would put ridiculous things in their riders. I mean, you can read books on this and stuff, where they'll be like, we just want green Skittles only in our rider, and we need a whole bowl full. And so these people, these producers, or the people who are like organizing these events, they would go and organize a bowl of just green Skittles, and people would do it just to see that like they'd checked the rider off and done the tick tick tick. It's such a jerk off move, but at the same time, it's like if there's rules to follow, sometimes it's a test to see if you're actually doing the thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
interesting world we live in. I mean, yeah, and so you started on a block where there was a what rooster stag, big rooster stag that you couldn't touch,
Yeah,
and then what were the other numbers like?
like five, maybe five does, and then there was a little pack of not chittle, fallow. But I also, when I started, there was like I had one block here and there was a house here, and this guy was like, "Cool, same thing. You can come hunt this area back to this main fence. Just don't go near my house." And
Hmm.
then I had access kind of this guy's land went all the way up, so I could kind of chase around. But yeah, slowly the block got smaller to the point there's just the stag and five rooster does, and it was just yeah, it was hard, man. Like I'd go, you'd either have a chance first light to see them, and they were like pretty skittish. The bush was, it's a shit block. Like there's no advantageous glassing spot. It's big tea tree kind of stuff. And then there's one dam, and I wasn't going to sit and like look at the dam. And then the other bit was kind of the road, and then some open. like grass paddocks. So they just kind of sat in this thick um, line along the creek.
Hmm.
And that was kind of why the deer were there. He had the last bit of water in the drought. And when I started, same with you, getting back into it, it was that really hectic drought. Like I was looking at photos the other day, man, and there is not a blade of grass in this place. And then I remember going out just after Corona, and it was like, grass this high, and it was like blown away. And it's like, all right, this is game changer because now I can sneak. And that was the other thing, you couldn't cross the open ground. So I was like, I'm lanky and tall as well, so I'm just like slowly creeping through. And the guy where I got access, he's a really good hunter. He's a real old bloke done carpentry all over Australia. And he would just give me little sly tips and be like, I'll be here where the pick is or this. And like, you've got to listen to the landowners. Like, they tell you something, just do it. Like, you're like, oh
It's worth
no, listen
checking
to
at
this
least.
person. Yeah,
Yeah.
they know. But yeah, it was hard, man. And that's what I remember I wrote to you when you asked about this. I was like, dude, I don't think we've got better. Like our access has got better. Like we still suck. And I don't I know I suck as a bow hunter. Like there's dudes who are weapons and I struggle. I'm on the biggest fluke of a streak at the moment. I think I've gone out 6 times and got a deer, which is insane. And like I said, every time I shoot one, I treat it like it is the last. Because like that gold, I've been back to that creek multiple times. I've found not much in the realm of gold since. And
Yeah.
with bow hunting, same thing, access, man. Like I never hold hope on, I never chased the rut. I just was always trying to shoot a deer. So I didn't really care. It was only like listening to you and I figured it out a bit more. I'm like, okay, so there's this whole other side to it. But I'm like, I don't really care if it's got antlers. I just want to say that I bow hunted a deer because all these gun hunters I've met are like, oh, with a bow, mate, it's impossible. I'm like, oh yeah, you lit a fire under me. I'm going to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, within saying that, it's good that you're keeping humble with it, but you definitely would have increased your skills, right? Like from stalking and maybe not having necessarily the most opportunities to now
Yeah.
having more opportunities, you sharpen the tool as you keep going, right?
100%. There's little things you pick up on, like the tail wags, and like there's a calmness. Like me and you really put so much pressure on yourself, and I started trying to film it too, which is the dumbest idea ever because it's just a whole nother world. And I'll give you here's one hot tip: GoPros stuff you. The lens flare off a GoPro on
Uh-huh.
your head. If you're gonna try and wear one, and you've never shot a deer, take it off because I always just think where the sun is, and you never know what's going to happen. And that reflection is just a killer. Like,
Bro,
I swear it got
your
me so
skin
many
stands
times.
out, let alone like a glass case, right?
Yeah.
A
And
glass lens.
I remember hearing you, I was listening to one because I got on and off. I usually listen when I'm driving out hunting as well. Okay, I'm getting in the zone. See,
Mhm.
let's hear off some weapon hunters instead of me being a rookie. Like, take some things out in the bush and try and put it in practice, right? And I remember hearing one of you going like, because you had this fixation on goats and your property didn't have goats. And that's a whole nother thing we should talk about is like what people have prizes on. But like you were just like, come back from this hunt, yeah, there was a goat, and then there was these fallow up on the hill, and then there was this, and then we went around there. And I was listening in my head going, wow, I haven't listened for like a little while. And I'm like, you've gone from like the days of the struggle, and they're like, oh, I saw this guy and the wind wasn't right. And then I went over to this bowl to like this hunt where you've gone with 2 guys, and there was like hundreds of opportunities a day. But same thing, it comes down to access. And so if you're starting out, don't get disheartened by that because, man, like I still haven't shot so many things. Like I haven't got a good boar. I just don't have a property that has good pigs. Um, and if you take something with a bow, that's amazing. Like you've done such a good job. Like it is freaking hard. Like you go through these dry stages where you don't get anything. And like that's like you look at my post, I put up a little pig like this. I'm stoked, man. Like I don't have pigs. If I see a pig and get one, I'm like, yes. Where other dudes are like, oh, that's easy. And then now I went with a mate to a Chiddle property and had a day of like pigs. And I was like, oh, okay, figure these guys out a bit more. And they are a bit, you can move on them pretty quick and whatnot.
Mhm.
But that's just a little pig. I haven't had the opportunity of these
An
big
old
boars that are
boar.
elusive and come out for
Yeah.
like 2 minutes a day. And that's the thing about bow hunting. It brings you back. Like the struggle is what is good. Like don't fast forward the struggle. The
Mm.
struggle is, I don't know, for me, I always love when something's super hard. And that's like I would never spoon feed someone. It makes me cringe a bit when I see someone get spoon fed, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been bow hunting for 6 months, and they're like, got this, and this. I'm like, no, some dude took you out, told you to sit there. Yeah, cool, you can shoot a bow, and there is another aspect of that. But I'm like, you got spoon fed, like,
I mean,
no offense,
it's no, it's also smart play, right? It's like fast action will get fast results. So
yeah,
it's I mean, within hearing this, you would do really well going with some hunters because
oh,
then you just
100%.
find other angles and other approaches. What I love is hunting with people who have hunted their whole life, and you're like, this is what I was thinking. How would you approach it? And then just shutting up and listening and hearing what they say, you're like, oh fuck, I didn't think of it that way. And they've just
Yeah,
got a different way of thinking about it. But it is very interesting. But I think to your point, like I still get excited whenever I see an animal, no matter what it is, because I don't get to hunt every day. I don't get to go out every week. I don't get to go out even every month anymore. Like it's getting harder and harder to hunt in the sense of with the stages of where my family's at, with the stage of where my business is at, things are getting harder to do. But at the same time, it makes it even more rewarding and even more sweet every time you get out there. And it's
yeah,
just bush walking with my bow is now one of those things where I'm like, thank fuck I've still got this. Like it's just that moment even is like,
yeah.
versus previously, like I get exactly what you're saying. When I very first started, it was like this has to happen today. And when it didn't happen that day, and I got home, I'd be like, when's my next trip? And there was times when I'd get home on Sunday night and I'd
Like
say,
sleepless nights over it, eh?
yeah,
Like,
and I'd say to
oh,
my
I've got to
wife,
go one more time.
yeah, next weekend on Sunday, like we don't really have anything booked. What do you think about me going for another trip? It's just like you're trying to just squeeze it in wherever you
But
can.
but you get that hunger because of the failure, and that's
Oh,
what you got to
100%.
understand. And I don't think it's suited for some people because, and that's I don't mind if someone gets spoon fed, whatever. But it's like that struggle is sick. Like I always think of it like when people were peppering me, going, "Man, you still haven't got one. Like, what's wrong with you?" Like I've got mates who chase dogtooth tuna, like sea moon phases, fighting Indo, like just go nuts, and they're the same. Like took them
Spearfishing stuff.
yeah, and it took
Yeah.
them, years and years to pattern and figure it out, and they
Hmm.
finally get one. And they caught the same, like, haven't you got one yet? It's like it's part of the process. All the people you meet, all the places you go, and it's like that with bow hunting. Like you just go out there and you're just exploring, and you walk through creeks and you see all these different insects and bugs and animals, and you get close to different animals and see how they're interacting. And that it's sick, and then
Mm.
that failure makes you want to go back. Whereas if I went with a gun and I was thinking about this, and I always said it. If you go with a gun, like most days now, especially now, it would be over. Like the first light, usually when the properties are hell better, you can see a deer, and I'm like, "Dook." And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that hunting's hard, not hard with a gun, but it's a whole different ball game. Like bow hunting is like you're asking. Well, it's called a struggle stick, right? Like, and that's the next,
Next
the
level
next,
up.
the next
Yeah,
level.
exactly.
You went into that level, didn't you? I'm contemplating it.
It definitely gets harder. I mean, that's all I've been shooting at the moment. It's just my longbow,
Yeah, right.
which is great fun. Like it's really good just for like concentrating and having shots and playing around with in the backyard. And I still do have the old concept, and it's playing even in the back of my head right now of like, well, it is the rut coming up, and it is the chance where you can potentially call something in. Maybe it's a good time to take the old longbow out. I'm like, I don't know. That's still I've still got things I want to achieve with the wheels yet.
Yeah. I feel like my pressure was on meat, and now like I've got a freezer out there, and yeah, I've done pretty well lately. And like even at Christmas, I fluked. I went back to that property where I was shooting rabbits as a kid, which is
Mm.
full circle, which is epic. And my uncle, like 2 weeks before, sat there, and this is that access thing, right? He's like seen all my hunting stuff. And he's like, "Hey, Christian, look at this," and just sends me like these huge stags. It's like, oh, huge bucks. Sorry, I'm so bad at fallow. Huge fallow bucks,
I
and
didn't want to pull you up before.
oh man, I do it. So I just did a movie on the. I'm so bad at it. It's just the hardest thing. I don't know why my brain works too quick and I always get it mixed up. But yeah, he sent me this photo and I was like, oh, do you mind if I come to Christmas like a day early? I know you've said this date because your family's all coming from overseas and whatnot, and there's 30 of us arriving. Can I go at the back paddock and just have a crack and take better my girlfriend? And the plan was to try and get her one with my old bow. And then yeah, we went there on the whim that we might see one, pull the car up, woke up first light, see this thing on the opposite ridge, an open property, which I don't have often. So I was like, no one was so early. I'm like, is that a cow? No. And I'm like, is it a goat? And then I was like, it's a deer. And it just went perfectly to this ridge, stopped, as it got lighter, there was five sitting there. So the five deer that he's seen only in like the last 2 weeks went straight down this hill, came up, was sitting on a grassy knoll, 30 meters, bang, heart shot it, dropped. And my girlfriend's like, "Why do you make these videos of it being so hard and exaggerate all the time?" Like, because she's come twice, and twice the other property was this tiny little thing. And we went in there, and there was just so many deer. Same thing. It was just a mate said, "Hey, down in the south, he's like, my dad's got this little block. It's tiny, but and like tiny, like nearly too small to hunt." And there was like six deer on it. But like she's like, "Oh, this is easy every time I come." Like, well, you should just come every
I
time
was
and get
gonna
your
say,
luck.
sounds like she's a good luck charm. We should bring her more. Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, like it's like that's it. Yeah, that's one of the same. Didn't even think of that before, but that's that same opportunity. Like, and that's within my family. Like, but and that's the same thing. A lot of places are a long way away from me. Like when I hunt, I'm committing and I'm driving solo 4 hours inland and doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Just got to
it
get
is.
off the couch.
Yeah, my perspective of how far to drive changed a lot when I started hunting, right? Like 10-hour drives is not that far to go for a weekend hunt for me. I'm like, you know what, it's worth it. Like I'll go do it. Um, it's very interesting. We went to England a few years ago and we drove from the north to the south and it was like a 6-hour drive or something. And we talked to all these people. They're like, "Oh, so where were you just before?" I'm like, "Oh, in Manchester." And they're like, "What? How did you get here? Like, did you drive in one day?" You're like, but in their English accents, you're like, "Yeah, there's nothing. Like, it literally is nothing compared to what we do here."
Like 6 hours. My brother lives over there. They all trip out. You like go down to ports and they're like, "What? You drove here today?" You're like, mate, it's like nothing. I'm the same, man. I used to chase waves, bodyboarding, and we would leave from here, and there was guys further up from the sunny coast,
Hmm.
and we would drive in past Sajuna because we had these waves kind of untouched back then that we knew of, and if we saw favorable conditions, we'd just go, and it's like 32 hours or some shit. Like and even if you've got money, you can't cheat your way in. You've got to come from the WA side, or you've got to do this, and we would do it. And I look back at it now and go, like, you're off your head, but it's that same addiction.
It
Like
is the
we
drive, yeah.
wanted the heaviest, shallowest waves, and we all pushed each other, and it was kind of cool. That's where, like you said, it'd be good to go with other bow hunters. I'm actually like, I've teed a few guys up this year to do YouTube with some guys that have been on your show actually. And I slid into their DMs. It was the first time I did it. And I felt so awkward because I was like, "Hey, I've got this idea. I just want to come and follow you
Mm.
and come behind and as a better bow hunter, just watch you all go. If you want, we can go animal for animal, but I'm going to film the whole day and show us stuff and everything up. Like every busted pig out of the grass, every whatever, and then come back to the campfire and have a chat and just have the same six questions that everyone gets used to, and yeah, get some advice off some of these better guys." And yeah, they all said yes. I've got five of them lined up.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
yeah, just got to find time, like you just find time now. I'm like, oh my God, it's like the best opportunity I've ever got. I've actually like, I still have the itch, but it's not that urgent like when we first had it, when you're like,
Mm.
"Oh, I've got to get back there this weekend because I saw that stag," and oh,
Yeah,
and you're lucky.
I've had some really cool opportunities been presented to me in the sense of like projects that could be really cool just to try bring some more light to bow hunting, which I'm very excited for if it comes to fruition. But it's one of those things where you need to be real about it. It's like, okay, when are we going to fit this in? We're now talking about multiple people's timetables and trying to make it work. So it is going to be interesting to see if it is something that can come to fruition. But I'm really like fingers crossed, hoping that it does. In the
Yeah,
sense of, okay, this will be something that could be great for bow hunting, right? It's like it's something that can project it forward, I guess. Um, there was
little
something.
little a little bit of burley going out there,
Yeah,
mate. There'll be
exactly. Yeah,
something
open
to
loop
come.
for you, motherfuckers, eh?
Not telling you too much, but
No,
there's something coming.
maybe something coming, or maybe not. You'll probably hit me up in a year's time, and be like, "What are you talking about?" Hopefully not. Hopefully that's not the case at all. Talking of, I mean, we're in February now, but the rut is very quickly approaching. Something I was doing before we started talking tonight was going through your rut video that you chucked up just recently. It was funny because we were messaging during the rut last year, and you were like, "Bro, you look as disheartened as I feel at times." And watching your video was like the mastery of fuckery and all the BS that happens with bow hunting and patience building and testing your resilience and just making sure that you really, really want it before it gives you any opportunities at times. And it seemed like your rut was, yeah, definitely much of the same. Tell us about this year's rut. Oh, sorry, the rut that you filmed and you've just put the video out for. Tell us maybe just some of the stories around that and how that kind of all pieced together.
Yeah. Well, I started up a Gold Creek, so that was stupid because I went up where I found the nuggets because I got excited to go inland, had it all planned, and like always, the kind of got pushed out with people. So did that silly because I'm already burning my legs. Went to the first property. I hadn't been there. Yeah, slung in by a mate, which is epic because now that's where I hunt.
Hmm.
And I just went to film these, like the owner and him, he'd take his first deer. So I did all that. Then I went to where I usually hunt with the rooster and a mate who ended up being on a property next to me who we hadn't told each other where we were for 4 years. We'd been like so secret squirrel. And then I ran into him on the one freaking road in there. So he
That's
was like,
hilarious.
and he has a sick property like backs onto like this open ground. Like it's just insane. And I can see this hill and I can see the deer on that hill with binos. So it's like does my brain in. So I was
Mm.
like, cool. And I went and followed him with a gun too. We did no good. It was really weird. And apparently the days before, a neighbor was hitting me up. As I was parked out the front, he was like, "What are you doing?" I thought I was jumping fence. I'm like, "No, I'm waiting for a key." And the guy, like, I'm like, "I've just come for another hunting property." You're like, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't. I should have changed out of camos. It's stupid." Anyway, he let me in, and yeah, we just did no good. And then the owner was like, "Come back to that first spot." So he let me come back. I just hit it solo, and I got up to like 11 days and just had some crazy. So I'd never seen like croaking bucks or anything. So I was just frothing, got in close. I had also days where I had nothing going on, and then during that, yeah, my car broke. Got caught in hailstorms. I had a new Garmin. The calibration went in it, and I always use my iPhone. So then they were telling me different ways, and I was kind of, it's like it's nearly the size of a state forest, this place. And I was like, I fully got lost to the point where I was, I've done survival courses for working in the mines remote. And like, I remember one guy always said, just sit down. So I was actually using that and sitting and stopping. Like, I wouldn't have been in trouble, but I was cold, like it's cold. And I was like,
Mm.
I don't really want to spend a night in the bush. I've spent a night, like nights camping after hunting, and it sucks enough when you're not comfortable, yet alone wet after hail.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just had so many things happen that you have to watch and see. But yeah, in the end, I finally, yeah, called a guy over. He jumped the fence to be legal, which is insane. And I like heart shot him at like 9 meters. And it's weird. I rewatched it and editing it this week. I was exhausted again from scrolling through. Like I forgot how much went down, like
The
getting bogged
PTSD
in
of
it.
it all. Yeah.
Oh man. And everyone's like, "Oh, rut ready." I'm like, "Rut, forget." Like I don't even want to go. I'm like, take me back to my little place where I saw one deer and I wanted to get some meat.
It
But
is
yeah,
so
I
interesting,
finally.
right? It's like that mindset going in and thinking it's going to be easy. It just never gives it to you on a platter.
Well, that's when we were having our hardships at the small blocks. That's what I remember you saying. Like you always get excited. And then my mate who came and I first filmed him, he shot one straight away. And he's going to see this and I'm going to say spoon fed and he'll hate it. But like, I was like, nah, man, this time I talked to them. I was like, he's got to go. He's got to go and find them. And he's not allowed to go to that spot where we've discovered. Now he's got to go somewhere else and work for it. Like none of this come for the night, shoot one, put it in your car, we cut it up for you and go home. Like, but yeah, it was super wild and I shot it and you can see it in the video. I'm like, it's that one. It's not even big. Like he's tiny, but I was just
Doesn't
like, it's my
matter. It's
first.
a trophy
Yeah,
anyway. Yeah.
I got one in velvet, like fluked it a few years before at the other place, and then yeah, it was my first like hard antler, and just so much had gone into it, and even just access, like man, I was just like, I wasn't. It was a weird moment where I'm not crying, but I'm kind of like,
It's just the
oh.
appreciation and the release of emotions that you've built up over that
And
hardship,
like you
right?
said, you're away from your family. My girlfriend, like, I've been away for 2 weeks in the mines and I've gone straight bush. And she's like, "Where even are you?" And I'm like, so I've got the Garmin now so I can send her like an okay message because most places have no reception. So I send her one at night. And
Because
yeah,
you're
I was
doing a
just,
lot of this, obviously solo camping away from like there's no farmhouse. You're just camping. You've got just your truck, pretty much, right?
yeah, I do that. And then lately I've been trying to push it a bit more. Like the property where I've got, I could hunt a hell of a lot easier. But due to how we learnt hunting, I find it cheating, man. Like, and same with the
You
first,
like to make it hard.
we not make it hard, but I go out there to see stuff. Like I could sit on this fence line where they come and go at the start, and it'd be done. But I'm like, it's not hunting, and it's real weird. The first buck I got was a velvet one, and even though I put years and years into it, I got it on the first morning of my hunt. So I'd driven out there, frothing, 3 days, free pass, and then I get there, go up on this hill, and I'm like, yeah, it's a good spot, nice little saddle. I've seen him here before. And this guy just walked up, heavy feeding, heaps of wind, so I could make noise. Even got my camera out and I just went thump, and I just heard his lungs go, and I was like, I did it. And I was like, kind of like, I was stoked, but I was also like, oh no, I got there and it was that night. So I hadn't even got to do a morning hunt. So it was an Arvo, like quick run out, and I'd done it. And I was like, stoked, but I was like, oh, no, where's my usual ups and downs of
Yeah, I was
hunting?
gonna say it doesn't really make for a good story when it just goes right, does it?
Nah, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, so much still went into it, and I was frothing. And then it was really weird because the next morning, I was like, oh, I'll still go hunt. And then I just had this whole different attitude to hunting the next day. I was like, well, I come here for meat. I've got meat. Not really kind of enjoying this. And I was about to go down the path of buying a gun to try and secure meat. And then I was like, I wonder if I do that, if I'll get lazy and I'll shoot one. Because even when I've gone with a mate who's shot one with a gun and they call me or whatever and you go help them, it's like, it kind of, that's part of it. Like when you do get one, it's a huge day, right? You're like, when you get a deer, and I'm not that fast at doing it, but it's just like, okay, here we go. And
That's
then
when the
in
work
my head, it's like,
starts. Yeah.
it's all that, then back to the car, then pack up, then bring it back home, and then cry back it all, and then rest it for 2 weeks in the fridge. And actually, do you do that? Do you age
I,
your
I
venison?
I wet age it. Probably don't listen to me and what I do. I wet age it just in like zivvy bags, or
Yeah,
no, or if I've got a whole leg, or like if I just quarter it, which I like to do, I'll kill the deer, chuck it into garbage bags so it doesn't get wet at all, like tie it all off really tightly, make sure there's no water seeping in from the eskies. Get it
yeah,
home and keep it in the garbage bags for the next week. Open it up and then yeah, go from there. I obviously check it when I'm pulling it out of the esky to make sure there's no water leakage or anything like that.
yeah,
If there is, then I will butcher it straight away. If not, I'll let it just sit in the fridge. It's kind of like a wet age in the dodgiest
yeah,
way inside the fridge because I don't have a rack to hang it in. So that method works really well for me.
yeah.
If you leave it too long, you will lose your meat. So don't do it that way. Like do it, figure out a better way to do it.
I do it.
But
I do it that way. I just cry back it, but then sit it in the fridge, and then yeah. Usually I was doing like 3 weeks, and then just at the end I'd cut it, drain the blood,
and
and
start
reseal it.
again. Yep.
But then lately, well, this is the other thing. I've been lucky, and I've been shooting like real small does, and like yeah, I accidentally shot like a baby chital. Like I drew. I drew on a deer. He like stepped out, and I was like through my peep, and I could see the front leg. And then he went in the shadow and stepped back. But what happened was a littler one stepped back into his spot, and I smoked it. Like I was just up the leg, and like I could see right, but I was
Mm.
just like I thought it was the same deer, and I
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't. And I saw him run away. So I got this like pretty small deer, but man, I'm targeting you guys. Like they are
Good eating. Yeah.
insane, man. Like of everyone that comes now, they've got three younger deers, and they are just like, is this really from the bush? Like, and
It's
what? There's no
crazy, cause
disease, and I'm
it's
like,
yeah.
man,
Dude, so a few years ago I took my brother-in-law out for his first hunt. And it was on a rut and we were targeting a stag for him all week. It'd been like 4 or 5 days that we were chasing stags and he missed I think two opportunities on them. And then on the very last day, the very last hunt that he had on the very last light, I was like as we were walking out, like I was defeated. I'm like, we're just done. And we're walking out and I'm like like literally saw this hind up on the hill. I'm like, bro, he's right there. Like, all you need to do, she's right there. All you need to do is just quickly sneak up to this little bush. You've got your shot. And he took the shot, and I saw her go down, but then I saw her hop up and move over. I was like, I'm like, you're gonna need to get a second shot on her, dude. I don't think she's down. And he's gone up, and he's like snuck up as close as he can. And then all of a sudden, this deer's hopped up right in front of him. He's like, boom, shot it straight there, like at gunpoint, literally like right here. It was so crazy to watch. But it turned out that it was the fawn. And it was absolutely incredible eating. It's crazy to say, but, and I mean, it wasn't a young fawn. Like you think, what would that be? I don't know, many months on essentially. But yeah,
yeah,
the young deer are definitely good eating. Spikers are incredible, great eating. But then obviously you have to think about, well, if you shoot it when it's young, what's going to happen? Like you're not going to have big antlers on your block in years to come. So but yeah,
Yeah.
it is very interesting. And so, yes, yearlings are definitely tasty.
Because that spiker thing, like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like the does are, I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those weird. It's like fishing, right? Everyone's got this thing that they push, and I swear that's one with bowling. I heard Dooms just say like, you know, yeah, spikers taste good, but like you're shooting your future bucks. So
Exactly
think
right.
about it. And
Yeah.
they are a bit dumber. They like cruise by
Hmm.
themselves, which is it does make them an easier target. But yeah, something you just got to think about. But I just yeah, I don't know. I think
You need to
when
look
you
at the
drop it
numbers,
back,
right? Depending on what you're doing, like look at your numbers and what you've got, and if it's worthwhile or not. And then also, what's the desire of the farm owner as well.
100%. And like I'm lucky, there's a pretty big deer population here. Just like you can't hurt it, like
Hmm.
whatever. So it's like yeah. Now I'm like, well, it's actually yeah, target those nicer tasting ones. And I'm pretty weird too, and this is a little bit sick, but I like keeping the skin. So
Yeah, sounds
I
sick. If
kind of
you,
do look
yeah.
at them for that too. And I well, and that's it, sport for choice, right? Different to
Hmm.
where I started, and bit cocky right now because I've had some successful hunts. But yeah, it's like I do look at that. Like if I'm, you get a stalk on and I start looking at them all, I'm like, oh, and that's one thing. That's one thing I've learned, and one thing we should give as a good tip. There's never one deer, or like so rarely there is one deer, and I still do it, man. I did it last week. I was like, there's one. I'm like, nah, it's just got to be by itself. And I'm like, you just got to use your glass and sit back, and those opportunities are going to stay there. Like I think I rushed so much at the start. Like I'd be like, "There's that deer. Oh, it's going around the corner. I'm going to lose sight of it," and just
I gotta
stuff up
go.
by that
Yeah.
way. Yeah,
Yeah, I think like that was definitely something that took me so long to learn was the stalking methodology and how to stalk really well. As a concept, like you would see the deer's here, go straight to the deer. Like that makes sense. But then it's like, well, no, that does not make sense at all because what are you crossing to get over it? Where is you like, are you staying in the shadows? Are you using anything as your block? Like, there's all these concepts that come into it that I learn over time. But it was just like the noob in me that had no idea that was hunting solo that had talked to a few people on podcasts and not really known much, and so that was kind of the concept. So it's like yeah, there's definitely a lot of learning curve to go there, but I think I don't know. There's a lot of podcasts that I've done that can help out with that. Maybe even the recent one that I did of like starting bow hunting. That's definitely a good one to go into and have
yeah,
a listen to if you're kind of reasonably new in regards to like wanting to learn some stuff pretty quickly.
yeah, 100%. And that's it. It's just there's going to be more opportunities. It's just when you're in a low population block, like how we started, oh man, you get that itch. You're like, oh, I'm going tomorrow. This could be my only chance, and that's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's too much pressure or whatever I was doing back then, but yeah, I had the same thing. And that's it. You just start putting stalks on that you shouldn't even really bother. Like just sometimes sitting back watching, you learn so much.
Yeah, I mean, I actually want to touch on something we talked about before, where you were saying like you didn't want to buy a gun because you weren't sure if it would make you lazy or whatever it was. But as a concept, like for me, going out and hunting first and foremost is to fill the freezer.
Yeah.
So buying a gun for me was the concept. The concept for me was like, okay, well, how can I secure it, make sure it's there, and then actually really take that pressure off and enjoy the hunting instead. And so if I shoot something on day one, it like with a rifle, or we go out and we do a spotlight and shoot something. I know that it's done as a deal, and then it's just like actually enjoy your bow hunting and practice your skill and sharpen those tools. It is interesting how it can take the pressure off, but also every time when you go out with a gun, it's almost like it doesn't get handed to you either. At times, it does sometimes, and other times it doesn't as well. So yeah,
I think there's also that aspect once you get something down, it consumes so much. Because I've been, yeah, one of my mates who got me to accesses lately to like newer properties. Yeah, if he shoots something, then it's like, okay, then we're up till like, so late at night. And then in the
yeah,
morning,
you
I'm
get
like,
used to
oh, I kind of got
sleepless
to get
nights.
back there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's all part of it. And that's it. Like I said, if I didn't have this recent fluke with getting some deer down, I reckon I would have gone down the same path. Or like, and I'm lucky too at this place. The owner's like, man, if you ever want to come for me, I've got because he's got access to multiple places there. He's like, I've got access to just spots. So if you want to come out, get 3 deer, fill your
yeah.
freezer, then it's done. Then it's just bow hunting and like, yeah, his block's so big. So my aim is like backpack bow hunting now because I want to he's probably in your situation. He's got young kids, doesn't have as much time,
Hmm.
and I'm his new ADHD live camera. I'm like, where do you reckon? He's like, I reckon out there. I'm like, okay, I'll report back. And I just go. And so I think it's, I don't know. He's a really good dude. And I've actually, yeah, same thing. He's like a new good friend. And he's at a weird point in life where, you know, kids and our age, like that's why I hunt by myself now. Just like everyone's busy, everyone does stuff. I get access last minute, no one can come. I'm like, I'm going. And if I don't get that, like the other day when I went, I was actually driving and I just chucked all my gold gear in because all the gold creeks are on the way to hunting places. So I'm like, if I didn't hear back about getting a key, I was just going to pull up and go gold sniping and
Yeah.
yeah, drive into service the next day and see if I can hunt. But yeah, all a bit of fun,
It is.
eh?
It is. You remind me of my friend Nathan. Just yeah, full of ADHD. It's good.
Just hyper focused on something. No tech. Don't ask me about anything. Send my bow to Ian. Send him a text going, "Hey mate." Like I've never even met him in person. Like, can you just make sure that's good? Then I know it's me making a mistake. But I need to get out there and see him actually and just get someone to show me what I'm doing. And that's like, if you do watch my movies or whatever, and even being on this, it's a bit embarrassing. Like I'm not good at bow hunting. Like I've learned, I've enjoyed sharing my struggles. I think that's what people are connecting over my videos lately and sending me like, yeah, I've been getting really good feedback. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm not that good. I don't know the tech side, but it doesn't really interest me either. Like I can't be bothered sitting there figuring all that out. I'd rather be out there trying
Hunting
to
and
do it.
enjoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the rawness and the honesty of it, right? Like I think like you said, people connect to the fact that bow hunting is hard. And I mean, that's why I do try to interview all walks of life in the sense of bow hunting. Like there's beginners that have been on the podcast, there's veterans that have been on the podcast that are willing to give up their little snippets. And it's just cool to kind of get it from every different aspect. And I think even I'll go back and listen to episodes again in like a year or two's time because I've got a whole new perspective on the way that I approach bow hunting. And so then when you hear them say it again, you're like, oh, now I see, or oh, that makes so much more sense to me now. And it's just a different concept because of where they're at and where you're at and how you kind of take it. It's just taking that new perspective can be really, really powerful. So like the rut ready ones that we've always done, like the fallow deer rut that I did last year with Grant and Toby, like that is freaking invaluable in the sense of what it did for so many people getting so much. Like I think we had probably 15, 20 people. Did you? Yeah,
Thank
15,
you.
20 people message in saying like, bro, I got my first fallow buck. Like, thank you so much because of that podcast and what you boys did. It set me up for a better success. And so like I'm going down to hunt fallow again this year, and that is my concept. I'm going to go back and listen to that podcast again just to like re-tap on everything, make sure that I'm ready to rumble. It's kind of like what you said when you're driving in and getting into hunting mode, listening to the
Yeah.
podcast again or watching some videos. There's a few times where I've driven down to New South Wales and just put Collie's videos on. Like I'll be driving, I'm not watching them, but just like hearing what he's saying and getting the concepts of like, okay, fallow deer doing this, big boars doing this. Like, yes, good, let's go.
Yeah. How good is it to like I don't get much time to watch YouTube. Like my things kind of put out more than I consume, which is probably
Hmm.
not good for anyone else. But I don't really go on there and look around too much. But yeah, we had a cyclone delayed from work the other day, so I missed my flight from work. So I sat there and I was watching his vids and I watched his rut ones. And like, man, he like the animals he's getting and actually stopped in at the taxidermist and saw the one that he just got done. Like I went and met that guy because me and him have been talking a little bit. And to see it in person and then like to see him there and like drawing and putting back and drawing and like and he's shaking and like the dude kills like that
So
much
many
stuff
animals. Yeah.
and he's still frothing. And like I actually talked to him the other day because I hit him up about. I was like, "Hey, can I come and we'll do like I'll come and follow you." And he was
Hmm.
like, "Yeah." And we've occasionally through YouTube, he's like, "How are you finding it?" And then we actually had the funniest convo the other day. He said, um, "I was like, do you reckon you could go hunting again? Like, I love the camera because it slows me down and so much happens
Extra
because of it."
challenge.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and then he's like, "Man, didn't take one the other day, and I actually was bored. Like, it makes me walk further and do stuff because like otherwise I'm just mulling around by myself and it is super weird to talk to a camera. That's one thing. Like my YouTube's kind of changed. Like talking more. I used to voice over a little bit, and now I've tried talking more. But yeah, because I have an active personality, it's like if I'm talking through it like what you do with your guests and telling someone else, I do it. Otherwise, I fucking don't do it. Eh? I'm so bad at it. I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm like, yeah, it's a good idea. Should do that. And I sit there, I'm like, set my camera up to do something. The amount of times, I think James said it too with his filming, the amount of times I've set a camera up to film just like cooking and like talking about what's been going on because it's an easy way to do it. Nearly, I reckon, 9% of the time, deer, pig just comes in and you're like, put it all down, find your bow, spin the camera and go, there's one there. Like, it's actually insane. And I think it's just another thing. Like, you just, if you're out there, you just got to slow every now and then, slow it down. You're walking 3 steps glass, 3 steps glass. If you start just plodding along, sit down. Like, sit down and eat a music bar and
Mm.
shit happens.
Yeah, it's funny when you would be sitting there and you think you're making so much noise and you're like, nothing will come around me anyway. And then all of a sudden something pops up. You're like, what? Like, yeah,
It
it
must
is
be your
interesting.
eyes too, because you're stationary then too. You forget sometimes even when you're moving slow, like that's how you're trying to beat getting a glimpse through like a window at seeing a deer or a tail. And that's like one of the guy's place where I first was hunting. He's like, man, you're not looking for a deer. It was the best bit of advice. He's like, you're looking for a leg, an
Hmm.
ear, a
Yeah,
tail.
small little
And
bits.
and if you put your binos to that point where you are looking through those tiny gaps, that's when you start having success. And I think that's been a factor in me. Like I've started using binos more. And the block where I'm at now has freaking trees. I'm not in like this. What has that? It's caught some bug. Um, yeah, it has like nice trees where you can see through. I've never had that before, and I was like, "Oh, you bastards have been hunting like this, where you can use binos and fully see everything." I was like, oh, "It's like the dream."
One of the early podcasts I did, or what I used to do was like a tidbit. And so it was like episodes where you just have like I'd interview the guest, and after the interview I'd ask them just for like their best tip that they could give based on something that's really helped them. And one of the boys from New Zealand said like he hunts in the thicker stuff, and what he does, he just dials his binos back so that he can look at like the closest view through his binos. So it'd be like meter the wall away with 3 meters sort of thing. And he'll be glassing through that just to see if he can see like flickers and stuff. He's like, it's that dense that's what you have to do. And so ever since then, like I've always done that. It's like in the thickest of stuff. I still use my binos so much. It's like those little bits are very valuable little bits of information.
Yeah, and that's maybe where we don't suck as much as we used to, and we are getting a little bit better because yeah, they're just little things that you pick up. Like a new block does help, but there's these little things that you're like, or even you just get a sense like this is more deer country, and like some that still spins me out because sometimes I go to new blocks and it's completely different. You're like, oh, it's just like start again, and like
Mm.
yeah, I just like whenever I'm at a new block, I'm pretty bad. I just blow it out. I just go. I want to know. I've been looking at a map, so I'm like, I just want to know
The
what
ADHD takes
actually.
over. You're like, I can't help myself.
Well, it's just good, and I see it, and I'm like, I usually know if I'm coming back, so I'm like, I'd rather lay eyes on it all, and then you see that things you thought were going to be good weren't. Because that used to hurt me at my other place. I would get to that last golden hour, and because it's so thick, I'd be sneaking and I couldn't make it with enough light to get to those little areas.
Mm,
And I reckon you've got to have that in your plan in the day to go, okay, the light's fading. Where are they going to be? And where am
hmm.
I now? Do I rush to get to there and then start stalking and blow this bit? Like you've got to make those
You
choices.
do.
And
You have
where
to
I
make those
was,
calls. Yeah.
it was so loud, man. Like if I made that call, it would still blow. Like and the deer
So
would
far
sniff
out.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like they'd be gone.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I think realistically, you do get better at picking when you should slow down and when you shouldn't. And there is definitely areas, like you said, that seem like they're going to be a more deery type spot, or a place where pigs like to hang out. And so you do start to educate yourself on that stuff just the more and more hunting you do. But every new block does change slightly. However, there's a lot of aspects that are very congruent across all of them. So it's like the more you get out there, more education you have on hunting in general, the more it's going to help you with whichever block you're hunting on.
Yeah, 100%. Have you been to New Zealand? Yeah, I remember a few back you
No,
were.
no, I'd like to. It's definitely on the cards. It's just a when sort of thing. We're actually going. We're planning on going for my wife's 40th over to New Zealand, and she's like, "Just don't tack a hunting trip onto this one." I'm like, "Why not?" I'm like, "It's the perfect time to do it. We're over there already."
It'd be good for your brain anyway, because it's like watching some YouTube things and the rut, you get all this false confidence. Because I put in some effort over there. I did like 3 trips for 2 weeks each time, just hunting public land, never even saw a deer.
Mm,
Like just big, like it's steep, man. And like I lived
yeah.
there for a year and I actually when I lived there for a year, I had the sickest little goat property. Um, I worked like on the water at this aquaculture research place, and I could spearfish in the morning, and then my job was to let water in from the ocean, fill ponds up, and grow like feed for the whatever the scientists were growing.
Yeah,
And out this window, I could look up, and there's just this face, and there was goats, and I could
that's
just see when they
sick.
moved. And when they were close enough, I would drive up this road. But same thing, it was like, and this is how steep New Zealand is, man. It was like they would be like 150 meters, and it's so hard to get to them. Like they've got
Mm,
that gauze, which is so thick, so much blackberries, and it's like that, man.
it's
And you
ridiculous. Yeah.
you you like slipping and crawling, and you can see the goats, and so like when you add a deer to that, it's so gnarly.
Did
But
you ever do it in the one day where you went spearfishing in the morning, hunting at night,
yeah,
or vice versa, and actually be successful in both?
yeah, well,
Yeah,
probably a
cool.
lot.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
It was going to be one of my. I was thinking that was a movie idea to like, because yeah, I'm pretty fortunate with spearfishing where I am. It's like pretty good here, and like we've got
Hmm.
spots and got it dialed for jewfish and dolphin fish. So I can go out there and within a couple, like not being cocky, but like
But it's
I'm
just
not as good
it's
at.
the
Yeah, I
access
just
you've got,
know. I
right?
know
Yeah.
where the spots are. I know where the rock is. Swim down, smack it. You can shoot one jewfish these days, which here they're like plague proportions pretty much.
Yeah, wow.
But if you know the right spots, yeah, you can slide in. So you could do that and then go. And then usually I do that. I'll go shoot a dewie, and that's how I was getting access. I just take a slab, and it's pretty good for a farmer too. When you pull up with a fish that big, and you're like, you want some? You just take a cut off and go, how much? And yeah, where the stretch I actually got access, there's one guy who he has way better property, and every time I've lubed him up with seafood, and he's still never given me access. But it's just good to know because he's actually like the gatekeeper of that whole area. So he sees my troopy come through now and he gives me away. But it's like same thing. Like I know he appreciates it.
Yeah,
It
definitely.
makes him probably go, he uses like you use their roads and shit too, man. Like just road and access use. Like if you chew a road, like in that rut one, I wrecked that dude's access road, which is funny because I went down there the other night and I'm the last person who went in there last rut. No one's been there. It's so overgrown. But I got up in the morning and I stopped filming and just patted all that back in because I'm like, you got to think of stuff like that. If you go out there for your one weekend and you just like deer focus, you got to like respect the property, and that comes down to tracks too, or like they might need to get a machine in there occasionally, like offer to chuck in some money. Like I've said to him, I'm like, hey, you like had bad poacher problems. I'm like, do you want like I'm happy to invest in some of these better cameras for you and stick signs up because they never have time to do that stuff. It's like
No,
us with our
definitely.
lawn. Like it's that same kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So this year's rut, what's it looking like for you? You doing anything in particular for it?
I'm going to that red property. I just haven't locked in a day. I'm gonna look at it tomorrow. So probably not this break, next break. I'm gonna go have a crack at a red. I've never got one. Put in effort New Zealand, effort here, and yeah,
Have you
just
heard of Raw yet?
yeah. Like
Yeah, sick.
I shot one and lost one
Hmm.
in New Zealand, and he was big, and I heard him fall. He fell in like steep gauze. Like yeah, it was shit. It was the same thing. It was like after 3 2 week trips, and I got it on like third last night. Just couldn't find him, and yeah, I was pretty ropeable. I wish I could go back and like even though I couldn't get him for food, like at least find his
The
headgear because
skull.
he was
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Besides that, I'm going to the same place I went to last year. So we're going to have a little three guys who went and hunt with them and then maybe do a little solo tap on at the end. But he actually, and this is the other thing, you just always got to be ready for it. Like I don't hold it in high hopes because I've never had access. Like you, oh shit, I don't have anywhere at the rut. Like, do you know what? Hardly anyone does. It's like there's few very lucky people. And unfortunately, this guy's dad, who owns the place, has told all his mates and family, like, yeah, come up for the week before Easter and camp
Hmm.
and have a little shack there. And so
Yeah,
he's like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I was like, man, it's fine. Like, he's like, no,
yeah.
I know how much it means. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, you can't get offended at that stuff.
No,
He's like,
exactly.
like, yeah, but so I'm still going. He's like, you can probably go up the back. And same thing, because I put effort in. He's like, just park up the back and don't come down the front. I'm like, cool. So I'll probably go do that. And then, yeah, then I might go chase some of these other guys and try and do some hunts. Yeah, with them and follow them. And it'd be cool to see, like you said, to like be with someone more experienced and actually learn. Because, like, yeah, I don't know tech wise what I'm doing. And, like, yeah, people like Liam and, Brett and stuff, like, they've been doing it a hell of a lot longer. And it'd be cool just to hear their little, like, Ginger, come back here. You're doing that wrong. I'll go,
Can
thanks,
you
bro.
stop walking so loud?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, why are you breathing on my neck?
What about you? Are you so you're just gonna go? What'd you say before
I'm
you
hope.
said?
Well, actually, my wife, we had some friends over the other day. They're very interesting. So when venture hunting opened, we went to an open day that they kind of put on, and then that night they had a dinner for like content creators and for the work, like for the staff and everything. And my wife met one of the ladies who worked in their office, and they became pretty good friends. Like they just connected, and they were talking ever since. And they've been trying to tee it up because our kids got on so well. We've been trying to tee it up for them to come over and have just like I don't know, nibbles or whatever with us. And so they came over on the weekend, and her husband was actually the manager who started up Venture and started doing all the, like, he kind of put the team together, brought in the Avengers to be able to build out what Venture is now. And he's now working for Rigby. And one of the things that he said was like, it'd be really cool to see more women get into hunting. Like I think Rigby is something that would like to bring women into hunting, would like to put some like money or whatever behind it to make that happen. And Stace was just showing interest. And I said, well, if you want to go out and shoot a deer, let's go do it. Like we can go do it without that having to be a thing at all. Like let's just
Yeah,
go over Easter and see if we can go shoot something. So that is actually something that I'm really looking forward to is her going out with like we'll take the whole family out and go do a little red deer hunt at one point. So I'm trying to at the end of March get out for some reds. And then hoping to go for some fallow about mid-April, and then yeah, going. That's like the following weekend will be the Easter. We'll go out and try to do something for the family hunt. So I'm
yeah.
excited
Sick.
for that. Yeah.
How old are your kids again?
The youngest will be 3 by then, but 3 and 5.
Yeah, right. So yeah, what age are you gonna try and sling them into? Or are you just gonna wait and see?
Yeah, I mean, my 5-year-old's already pretty interested in a sense. She doesn't. She likes shooting her toy bow. She doesn't shoot the wood bow heaps that I've got her, because I mean it's also hard in the sense of like I don't let her shoot it without me. So she'll shoot her toy bow inside a lot, and whenever she's doing that, I'm like, let's go shoot outside, and then like tie her into it. I'm like, come on, let's go shoot our bows. Like try to bring
Yeah.
her into it every time. But yeah, she's very interested in it. She loves it for the meat side of things, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool to get that connection. Like as kids to, I went to a property yeah a while ago, and this young kid was coming along with us. He was like 11, and he was a character, but it was just sick to see. Or maybe he's a bit younger, like 9, but he understood that we were going out hunting. He could come till dark, then it was a bit dangerous. He had to go to bed, but he was up first. And he's like, "How'd you go? Did you get one? Yes!" Like, "Oh, can't wait to eat the backstrap." I'm like, "How good is that?" Like that.
Yeah, they love it.
It is like frothing, and he understands meat, and like hopefully he tells other kids at school and they don't look at him weird and go, "Oh, you kill things." Like it's I reckon that's sick to bring kids into it. And yeah, obviously don't have any children, but
No,
it's
my
yeah, it's
daughter, my
something
daughter
if I
goes.
did on.
She went to kindy after we went out and went hunting together, and she told them for show and tell that we went and shot 2 deer. And the teachers asked me after like kindy, they're like, "Was this real? Like, is this a real story or was it made up?" Because people just come in, like the kids would come in and just tell these random stories, like, "Oh, I went to Japan on the weekend." They're like, "No, you didn't." Like, come on,
Yeah.
stop lying, Frederick. But really, it's like, yeah. So they were like, "Is this real?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then they were like, "This is so incredible," and like asked me all about it, which is really cool. So it wasn't like frowned upon, which I really liked.
Yeah, that's it. And you know what? It's even that deer thing because I have it so many times in my conversation. Like, so those deer, where are you getting them? I'm like, dude, they're
Yeah.
just wild. Like
What do
people,
you mean we've got deer in Australia?
yeah. And then when you show them the size of a red, like that thing that Meldrum got, like, it's like that. You just even think that they're in the bush is like, and then like you said, when you hear them roar, like in New Zealand, I was sneaking around in the mornings, they're only just on dark, and then it's so thick there, it's really hard to locate them. So I was like doing my best. And yeah, every now and then one would let rip near you, and you're like, it's like goes through your body, eh?
Yeah, that's incredible. Life before the roar and life after the roar are very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the addiction starts. Well, man, before we wrap up, I believe you have a little giveaway that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so I was pretty fortunate enough with Hunter's Element coming along. Yeah, I've been wearing the gear for like 5 years straight and kind of recommending it to people, and the words kind of got back to them. So they've started giving me some product to like test pre-release. So yeah, I've got some stuff here. They've kind of committed to the stuff I wear. So I always wear like the Vantage hoodie, which is like the inbuilt face mask, and they've just done a new release with all this like Evapocool technology, and it links up with their backpacks. Like I use it on the weekend and shot a fallow and use their new backpack one night. It's like it's sick. Like you fully feel the breeze. Like it's all the research and development that goes into it's insane. Anyway, they were like, I put it down. I was like, can we do a giveaway? So they're like, yeah. And then, yeah, other companies have jumped on board. So I got Hunters Element giving us what I usually wear, Cayuga, Oz Cap, Dog and Gun, and there's two maybes sitting there. But yeah, if you just, when this comes out, it'll be the first day of the comp. So I'll have it pinned on my Instagram. Just got to follow those companies, tag a mate, tag as many as you want, and yeah, just going to go from there. And I'm pretty stoked. So thank you to those guys who are starting to support hunting. Like it's pretty cool those companies to jump on board and do those kind of things. And yeah, if you have a chance, also I would, I work as an enviro. Hunters Element do a crazy job, man, of like leading sustainability. Like their products are made from recycled plastic bottles and whatnot. It's epic to see. I actually rewatched some of their videos today on there. So if you go to their website, it has all their sustainability. So they've traced back all the lines of development to all their products,
Yeah, wow.
lost money on them to not have like live plucked ducks. All their swing tags are recyclable, and they're aiming at getting to a point where they can recycle that product straight back into one. So
That's
they've
cool.
they've they've gone all the avenues to make it epic, and yeah, for them to
Are
give
they a New
back to
Zealand brand?
yeah, they got New Zealand. I think they're based in New Zealand.
Yeah, I
So
thought so. Yeah.
Rob Wilson's the owner, and he was just looking at hunting and over 20 years where it had changed and how fish are spawning differently, and started thinking about why it was occurring and why they didn't go to places anymore. And he was like, well, what are we doing? And he audited his company, right, and then chased even suppliers down. I was like, okay, what can we do? And they came up with a list, and he put it to the staff. He's like, this could kill us because the price of our stuff is going to go up. So we've got to make it like the tech good and whatnot. And it is like, it's insane. Like they brought this new hoodie out, and it's like they've just made subtle changes to like it's cut so close to your face, so you got full 180 view. Like the veil comes off behind your head, so you can get air flowing through. And then yeah, they've said like, look, we're going to hit some of the price and not make as much money, but we actually need to start thinking about this because they realized there was a big push for hunters, coming onto that sustainable side.
Hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. Go have a look. It's pretty interesting, like how far they've taken it and what they're willing to sacrifice as a company, which I reckon is pretty sick. And then yeah, for them to give back to someone like me who's a nobody and start helping them out and yeah, use their stuff and like good and bad. I was like, I've heard this, give them the feedback, and they're just every release they just try and increase it, like like Cayuga do. They like every time they put a new one out, you don't even know. Sometimes they're making slight changes to make it better.
Yeah, I want to
So I
refine
reckon,
the
I reckon
product.
it's pretty sick. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
I mean, cool that people can do that as a little giveaway. Or get the chance to wear what you wear. This is only going to be going through Instagram? Is that right?
So yeah, it's gonna be on Instagram. I'll put the promo through like the other Facebook and whatnot, so you can do it on Facebook, YouTube. But I think the main post will be Instagram. It's probably the easiest for your listeners. I'd say most people are Instagram. YouTube's a bit hard because people to comment, watching TV and whatnot. They can do it there.
You have
I'll
to have a
check.
membership on or a profile on YouTube to be able to comment on it, which a lot of
Yeah,
people
that's
don't,
it.
right? Like it's definitely a harder platform to utilize in that sense versus everyone goes onto Instagram has to create an account. You can go and watch YouTube without having an account. So yeah, your your Instagram handle is following a broken compass. And
Yeah,
that's across all platforms, right?
yeah,
Yeah, cool.
that's it.
Good, good. Well, Christian, thank you for that. Thank you for putting that little opportunity out. I mean, some great brands, obviously, that support my podcast, that supporting you as well, supporting the community. They are always trying to give back, which I think is really cool. Kind of, yeah, like you said, putting their money where their mouth is, which is really good to see. But yeah,
100%.
if people want to follow along YouTube, I would definitely say jump across, watch some of the videos. They put a lot of content out, like I have over the last few years. It's really, it's cool. I think the more things we can get out there in regarding shining hunting in a great positive light, the better it's going to be. And sometimes that's actually just showcasing the absolute hardship that we go through. I mean, after last year's rut, or maybe the year before, I put some stuff up just on my regular like social media page, my normie page, and I had all these people reach out to me that have no interest in hunting at all and just said, wow, I never knew that that's what hunting looked like. I never knew that it was that hard. I never realized that there's that element of it, that there is so much effort and so much emotion that gets put into it just to potentially see a deer or just to potentially have an opportunity. And I think it's like the more of that light we can shine, the more of the meat elements that we can shine, and not just necessarily the grip and grins to the normies, the more people are going to convert as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's growing. It's a positive little world at the moment. And yeah, it's sick. Like, and it's, yeah, like you said, thanks to those guys, they're like small little business owners. They don't need to do that kind of stuff. So for them to give back and realize that we're all pushing this for a good reason, because obviously there is that other teetering edge of, it has been banned in a few spots. Like we need as much as some people don't want it to grow, it's really good that it grows, and that, if these guys are supporting it, you got big companies then that come in and go, hold on, like we've got all these people buying product, we're doing this, and like we're supporting this bit of sustainability. Like it's epic. So yeah, jump on those guys and help them. And yeah, thanks for you for doing this, because it's been yeah, you've given me some fun and games on drives in and some drives out, or I even break the KFC rules and just get deep on a Mountain Dew and just sit there and get fat and say I'm giving up. It's you've been there if
Give
you
in to
know
your
what
sorrows, hey?
I mean.
That's hilarious. Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Christian. It's been fun, man.
Too easy. Thanks, mate.